Hi everybody, I'm CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, across the Red River from the beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. I'm sorry I'm looking scruffy right now. Been out all day. I went this morning. I was going to go to a doctor's appointment. I decided that I had more crucial business to take care of regarding my home. So, have fun for you guys watching this boringness, right? This is my current season. I was wondering, what do I do with the season of my YouTube? I try to do something a little different each time. My first season, I think, was really focused on me living in the Fairmont, and I was really hopeful about getting to move over to Bayou Grande, which is the apartments that I live in now. And they were initiated by something called a choice neighborhood. It was a federal grant, and everything. So and then it was great. They just anyone who really, they gave first crack at anyone who was really needing updated housing. And I was living in a building called the Fairmont in Shreveport, and it was basically a death trap. And yeah, and it was a one bedroom, but it was really small. And but aside from the inconveniences of living in a small dwelling in a high rise, the elevators were constantly breaking down. Everything was it was tragic. Well, they were gonna talk about building these, and that was I'll tell you what it is. That I lived there for that first year, and at the end of that year, I was set to move. I was preparing to move, and I was going to move into Lee Hardware, which is another building downtown, which I do love. It's very near the train, so that we hear when I'm making videos sometimes. So that would have been a bit of an inconvenience, but I was living only a block away from those trains anyway, so it wouldn't have been that big of a change. It wouldn't have been much of a change. I was negotiating that when I was invited to get on the waiting list for the Bayou Grande development. That's where I'm living now. And I did sign up for it, and everything, first off, it was by, of course, they were trying to fill huge, like, something like close to 400 apartments or something. There's 300. I'm an apartment. I don't know how many. So many of them they were trying to fill at the same time when they first built these 4 large buildings. And so they built them, and then it took me still about 4 months to get in because I had to wait until it was, but everything lined up. It's one of those things that was perfect. The time that I was going to be available to move here, I could sign up here. All the paperwork and the approval and all that kind of stuff, because it was a bureaucracy, because they were doing whatever they were doing on the bureaucratic end of it, but it lined up, and I was going to have, just as my lease was finishing, there was going to be a 2-day gap between the time that lease ended and the first of the month. And so they did allow me to go ahead and move in here about 2 days early. They did initially charge a prorated, and then some this and this and that. It was weird. And then as soon as I got moved in, everything rearranged. Like as soon as all the paperwork signed and I was set to move and everything like that, all the rules, everything that they told me. I guess maybe their understanding got more clear or something. This was when the building was managed by ITEX, which was the company that actually built the property. And so anyway, since that time, I guess after that second year, the property, I feel like it was the second year, the property then got taken over by the Shreveport Housing Authority, and they started managing the property. They were built by ITEC, but or ITEX. They were built by ITEX, and they were managed by ITEX. And there were lots of issues with communication, and some of those issues carried over when Shreveport Housing Authority took it over. Some of those issues continued. Primarily with the grounds look nice outside. They little plants and stuff like that. They'll water it and everything like that. I guess they look nice enough. But the pool, do you remember, or you may not? I don't know. There was some time for about a year or so. It's like the pool, they shut it down, and so we weren't allowed to use the pool. But some of the children that run around, they live here and stuff. What are kids to do, right? Well, you cause trouble, you vandalize property, and they vandalized the pool and through throwing clumps of dirt and rocks into it and things like that or whatever. But so they padlocked it, but it was padlocked even for them. They were just throwing it over the fence or whatever. That happens a lot less now, but parents will still let their children take down large bags of garbage, and it gets on the stairs. I've never been a big complainer about that. I just avoid the stairs as much as possible, the ones that are gross, because they've been there like that for years. The custodial people, they don't clean the stairs. They say it's the responsibility of the tenants. I do everything I can to keep my areas clean where I live and then right in front of where I live. And I document that, and I really try not to contribute to the spillage on those stairs. You've seen the short videos that I've made if you want. They're there. So I'm covering my bases, but that's kind of what this channel is about. The first season was about me wanting to move over here, and then maybe the second season was about me kind of getting the apartment together, finding the furnitures, and I still never entirely decorated everything. I've got some decorations on the wall that I painted, that I worked with, some behind me, some friends made for me, things, sentimental things like that, but quaint folk art kind of thing. That's my thing. And then of course there's one or two places I think in the bedroom I'm going to get around to putting up. That's going to be the media places. Like if I go see a movie that I like, I'm going to put the movie poster up or something like that. Or if I see a vintage album, then maybe I'll buy the album just so I could take the album cover and pen it up. We're allowed to do those things, minute things for some decorations and things. That's nice. But they've been kind of crazy lately. For a while we did okay, even though they did not really properly manage the custodial stuff. They'll bring someone in once a month when they come in to do the pest control, and they change the air conditioning filter. The day of or the day or so before, they'll come in and they'll do custodial, and they'll do a quick mopping. And that's what I notice. They'll come out and they'll mop the hallway. I never see them doing anything like that when it has to do with the stairs. So whoever they is doing, and it's not been just this current person, it's been going on for years. They do not mop those concrete stairs, and these are inside of the building. It's not an outside breezeway kind of situation. The short video will demonstrate. You walk into the building, and then the stairs that lead to the units, the apartment units, those stairs are trashed out. They're in a very putrid state. They're covered with contamination that has got to be becoming toxic. I don't know, because whatever. But I guess the housing authority, nobody signed. Not the manager of our office did not sign, and our assistant manager did not sign this notice, but it does. Yeah, they want us to return this notice signed to their offices, but to whom did nobody? So, yeah. And long story short, I'm in disagreement with being charged for damages caused by other tenants and other units that are basically beyond my control. I have no control over that, and I think it's not I think it's not in keeping with current Louisiana law between leaser and leasee. It would be like those public or those common areas. That's the fiduciary responsibility of the landlord to take care of those. If tenants are known to cause damage, and you can prove that a tenant is causing that damage, then yes, you can hold a tenant responsible for that property damage. But that certainly is not the case with me. That certainly is not the case with me. I'm gonna show you why. I'm gonna pause the video. All right, so I have this tray. I have a couple of these, but I use this one specifically for taking out garbage. And so I take my garbage out in small bags. Okay. Put it on the tray, tie it, and then I'll carry it down. So I really try to safeguard against, any kind of grossness. I try to safeguard against being too, because you could foresee this stuff coming. They're going to try to charge everybody. And then it's not the charges that had me concerned. It was the we're going to start giving lease violations, but they're not going to give it to a person that they see taking out the garbage. They're going to give it to everybody that lives in the entire complex or the building or something like that. So that, without knowing who's doing it, and that is that's illegal. Both of that, the charging of the extra charge of the money for professional cleaning, that's illegal. You don't do that and then charge your tenants unless you just know they're responsible for causing that damage. And then, of course, you don't hold your tenants up for lease violations that they're not responsible to. And this is a rent-controlled, government housing kind of situation. So it falls under a certain other condition because it's like government funded, where you can't just decide, gee, we don't want to rent to this person, so we're just going to not accept their rent money, and we're just going to ask them to leave without due cause. I'm not a disruptive person. I don't have wild parties like my downstairs neighbors. I don't do that kind of stuff. So I just don't cause trouble. And so that's what this particular season of my YouTube channel. It's not about that. It's about me finding out the typical leases that I sign, trying to find out what the Louisiana law is so that I could reconcile my lack of knowledge in that. Because one of the things that I do have is an ability to read contract, to look into the contract, and then take that contract that I read and match it up with local legal jargon, which the definition of a legal term may change from region to region, city to parish. Parish is our term for county, by the way. So that's how law can differ. Terms can differ from place to place. So I'm really good at that. And the reason why I learned that is because I used to work for the city of Shreveport, and I also used to work for the state of Louisiana. I'm a person who's had a lot of different types of jobs, and I do make use of Medicare health insurance. And if you know anything like that, you've really got to read those clauses in those contracts if you're really going to get, what you should have coming to you, and it's there for. But not just that, but any kind of, not just Medicare, but just any kind of health insurance. You really need to know how to read and understand a contract, and I can do that. It's unnerving. It stresses me, makes me pull out what little bit of hair I have left, need to shave on my face. This was a clean shaven face when I started this morning. Let me tell you my my little adventure. I decided to postpone my medical procedure, which it was not a procedure. I was going to go for a checkup to have them look at my uvula, which got damaged a few years ago. So I'm already, because the deadline for me to sign this paper and turn it into the office was either today or tomorrow. And I'm seeking out legal advice as to, do I have to agree to these charges being charged to my account? And do I have to agree to accept these legal, lease violations, if I don't feel they're legal? And so anyway, I felt that really, that needs to be my focus. I could reschedule my health appointment. So I am not so much neglecting my health, but postponing what I could be doing to take care of my health, to take care of this legal issue that's kind of maybe a legal issue and it may not, but I need to find out. Because that is something that's going to drive me until I get it figured out. What I did was I went to the state building, and I walked around the state building looking for an agency in the state building that could answer these questions. It's Louisiana law. There should be a Louisiana law library in the Louisiana State Building. But maybe what I'll need to do to actually read this is probably have to go to an actual library and then read what they keep on hand about Louisiana law. And so I'll go to, next week, I'll go to the Shreve Memorial Library in Broadmoor. I'll go to that branch and I'll see if there's some answers there. But aside from that, I'm a good researcher, because I can't just go off making accusations and this is not legal if it's, I can't go off and say that if I don't specifically know. So I went to the state building to try to find answers. They didn't have those answers, but 2 or 3 blocks up the road is the news station for our CBS News channel, which is KSLA Channel 12, and I enjoy them. They're very good. They're but I rang the bell just out of the blue, and would you please maybe advise on what I could do? And of course, there wasn't anyone. There wasn't anyone available right then to look into it, and that's fine, because they things like this they look at and they handle in time. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that's bigger than just little old me and my little questions about my landlord. I just wanted to know, where could I go to read about the Louisiana law between the leaser and the leasee of a property? You could read online, but you don't know. That's not legal documentation. Legal documentation has got the Louisiana seal on it, and it's So it's a lot of pontification online. I want to be careful not to do that. I don't want to quote it. I don't want to be responsible for spreading it. I can tell you that I don't believe it's legal for a landlord to charge a tenant for damage caused by other tenants who live in another property that have nothing to do with the property that I rent. I rent my apartment, and then there's the right that should be protected, and it's the landlord's responsibility to help protect my what's called peaceful enjoyment of the leased property. And so posting on my door that's threatening, hey, because of somebody else's actions, and we don't know who's doing it, we're just going to evict everybody after 3 strikes or something. You can't really do that, I think that, I don't think that you can legally do that. I need to find that out. But certainly document myself to cover my back, to prove what's going on here, just so they don't have to keep doing that. And then, but I went to the KSLA, and they asked me to send an email. So from there, I went to the Caddo Parish courthouse, where there's the marshal's office is in there also. But where I went or whatever, that's what someone said. And I'll tell you why I thought it was the marshal's office. But I went there, and I went to the clerk that receives. This is where you go. You want to file eviction. Any kind of sort of, if they're going to evict you, maybe you want to file uh, uh, a case against the landlord for dereliction of their duties. Any kind of landlord, there's an office for that. So I went to see, do they have any information about, hey, how do I know what's legal, what's not legal? How do I just need to know the law. I just need to read the law. We are expected to know, we're expected to abide by the law, so we should be able to read the law. It's my philosophy, especially in a time such as this. But they said, well, we don't offer legal advice, but they did give me a card and advised me to go to the ASCLA, Legal Aid, basically. Acadiana, that's what they call it. It's a legal aid firm. And that actually is, I live at Bayou Grande. They are 2 blocks up and 1 block over, very close to where I live. All this stuff is very close to downtown. That's one thing I'm happy about when I need to go out and do some footwork to find these things out. That was my day on foot, going around doing this. When I need to go out and find out what's going on, I can pretty much go around to all these different little places. The one place I did not go to was so it was the city courthouse, and that gave me that information. But I did not make it to the parish courthouse in the center of downtown because they deal with criminal, felonies, so it's a different thing, different monster. But I may check them out. I don't know. But I did go to the ASCLA. I did sign up today, filled out paperwork. I went there, and she asked I could fill it out, and then she couldn't get anyone to see me today because it takes about a week in a non-emergency situation. I don't have like an eviction date, and I don't have any sort of thing like that I'm actually actively being evicted. So in that case, those kind of, when they walk in and get seen right then, that's an emergency situation. But what I didn't, so I didn't do that, but I did fill out the paperwork. I turned it in. She did say it would take about 7 or so days, and that intake into legal aid situations usually happen on Thursdays at 1 p.m. So next Thursday at 1 p.m. I'll be back in their office to see what's up with the intake. So, and then and I'll just be persistent on that. When I did get this notice that I'm questioning, I did call the home office, 2500 Line Avenue. I called their phone number of the housing authority because this notice is attributed not to the management of Bayou Grande. It's attributed to the housing authority of Shreveport, the entire agency. We are to sign this paperwork and take it to the Shreveport Housing Authority. However, the location of the Shreveport Housing Authority listed is the office of Bayou Grande 961. And so there was a conflict there, that the Shreveport Housing Authority, the agency itself, is located on Line Avenue. Yes, they do manage us here, but they always refer to themselves as Bayou Grande. Ms. Ferries, our assistant manager, assistant property manager, I should say, it's always Bayou Grande, so, but we got no signature this from the desk of this person or from the directive of this person or nothing like that. It's kind of a red flag, especially there's clauses that talk about in the rent, any part of the rent or any kind of practice that is not enforceable or is in conflict with Louisiana law, then that part of the contract of the lease or whatever would be, not the whole lease, but that part of the contract would be void and non-applicable under the law. So, This is just me trying to figure out what are the answers to clear up the conflicting bits of information that I'm getting. Also, if these unwarranted postings on my door, to everybody's door, really to everybody's door, if they are disruptive to the peaceful enjoyment of the property that is a fiduciary right of the leasee of a property in Louisiana, I do believe, and that the leaseor has a responsibility of helping to ensure that. And that would be counterproductive to that effort to keep posting, we're going to evict you for things that you have no control over, that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm wearing this, because I just, whatever. Then I'm about to make a little dinner, and then I'm going to spruce up the apartment a little bit because we have them coming in tomorrow for their pest control. They do that about once a month, and that's the time that they do the mopping a couple of days before or something like that to get. But I never see them on those stairs, so we'll see. Okay, I'm going to try to find some other fun things to talk about. I just got to get this resolved. I'll know more answers within about a week. I really do hope that nobody gets frustrated and decides to unsubscribe from my channel. It's times like these that I really call upon the blessings of your good energy and your moral support of knowing that you're out there subscribing to my little channel or whatever. And I want to get back to sharing what's good and positive about Shreveport, Bossier, Northwest Louisiana, all of it. I want to get back to all that very, very soon. I just want to get these issues resolved. Okay, and I love you. Okay, and stay golden, pony boy. Ciao, Bella.